This article that you write about freedom, it's so important because what you do is you talk about what James Madison said in crafting the First Amendment. He insisted that the word "the" precede freedom of speech in order to manifest the framers' belief that the freedom of speech pre-existed the government. The First Amendment is a negative right. It doesn't grant the freedom of speech. Rather, it restrains Congress from abridging a right that pre-existed.
Because the right comes from our humanity. The government thinks it can create rights. It can't. Rights come from our humanity, from our existence, to be alive, to think as you wish, to say what you think, to publish what you say, to defend yourself, to travel, to own property. These are natural human rights that exist in the absence of the government. Or the government grants privileges. It lets us vote to make us think we're influencing it. It gives us the privilege to drive on a government roadway if you pass the government tests. I get that. But rights come from our humanity. They don't require a precondition. They don't need a government permission slip. They don't need the consensus of the community. Speech is in that right. And when government interferes with a right, when government interferes with speech, it's doing the opposite of what we've hired it to do. We've hired it to protect our rights, and instead it's assaulting them. Last week we talked about all the spying by the FBI on 278,000 innocent Americans. No outrage. Is there any outrage? Is there any?
There was no news.
Correct.
No news, no outrage, no nothing.
Correct. Well, the media, which used to be a champion of free speech, the mainstream media, I'm not talking about you and me, the mainstream media is in bed with the government on all this. The mainstream media championed the government on when it closed businesses and made you wear a mask and wouldn't let you go to mass and made just, it's hard for me to believe this happened, but of course it did. And we all lived through it. And the media championed them on. Challenge the government on these things and they'll call it disinformation and take you right down unless you're on one of the websites that doesn't challenge for content.
Yeah. Now, I used to be on everybody. I used to be on CNN back in the 90s and early 2000s, like 3 or 4 times a month. And they used to let me say what I wanted to say. No more. You're not allowed to be on if you don't say what they say. And again, you have shows like The View, and it's like so highly rated. How could you be so stupid to watch the crap spewing out of the mouth of these morons? How dumb can you be? How stupid can you be?
Colonel Douglas McGregor, whom you and I know and profoundly respect, maybe the brightest military mind in the country, advised Ron Paul and Donald Trump cannot get on mainstream media. I mean, I have him on once a week, but he cannot get on mainstream media because he challenges their orthodoxy. Ukraine has already lost the war. The government knew before the war started Ukraine would lose. Oh, we know that from the documents that the government says Jack Teixeira released, the accuracy and authenticity of which the government has never challenged. McGregor is 100% correct. He footnotes everything he says. He's funny, articulate, witty, brilliant. They won't put him on because he challenges their orthodoxy.
Again, I used to be on everybody. I mean, remember, I used to be on Fox all the time with you.
I think that's how you and I met.
Yeah. I used to be on your show. I used to be on Fox and Friends. I used to be on all the time. I used to be on Oprah. I was on Oprah twice. I was on all these shows. I used to be on the Today Show, Good Morning America, CBS Morning. They used to send the trucks up here with the satellites and shoot me all over. I used to be on everybody. Not a word, not allowed, not allowed. And I'll put my trend forecasts up against anybody. Show me your track record and we can begin to talk. So I do trend forecasts. So going back to what you're talking about and the freedom of speech, what's going on in talking about freedom and the government in control? What's going on with this Trump indictments now?
Trump has been charged with 3 conspiracies, which is essentially a thought crime. Now, the Supreme Court has said the First Amendment protects the right to speak falsely. You can say whatever you want. So here's Clarence Darrow defending a guy charged with conspiracy. The number is a little dated because he said this in 1870. If a boy he's addressing the jury. If a boy steals a dime, he's not going to go to prison. A small fine will do. But if two boys conspire to steal a dime and then don't steal it, they are candidates for the penitentiary. What kind of a country does that to its own people? And then one of the jurors says ours. Now, at that point, he knew he was going to get an acquittal. But the point is well made. Conspiracy charges punish thought. They don't punish harm because by definition, there has been no harm. No. That's what Trump is charged with. Look, I think his behavior has been reprehensible. I don't think he's qualified to be president of the United States. But this latest batch of charges are thought crimes.
That's it.
Yes.
Thought crimes.
Yes, that's it. Now, who are the witnesses against him? Gerald, his own people, Mike Pence, Rudy Giuliani, and three of the other lawyers that he consulted. The government cut deals with all of them. They're all named as unindicted co-conspirators. They're not named by name because they cut deals with the government. In the Mar-a-Lago case, there are two co-defendants who refused to cut deals with the government, and that's why they were indicted as well. That's the way the government works. The government coerces and bribes. Tell us what we want to hear, and we won't indict you. Don't tell us what we want to hear, and we will indict you.
So this is just noise. It doesn't amount to anything.
Well, it's noise, but it's serious because the penalty is up to 20 years in jail. He has a very, very stern judge, and he has a jury base. The population base from which the jury will come is Washington, D.C. That's about 90% Trump haters, as you can only imagine. Yeah. Not Northern Virginia, not Maryland, just Washington, D.C.
And when will these charges go? When will this all start to happen?
I believe that this case is going to be, even though it was filed after Mar-a-Lago, I think it's going to be tried before Mar-a-Lago. I think this case is going to be tried in December or January. Very, very soon. You're going to see former Vice President Pence and former America's mayor, in air quotes, Rudy Giuliani, on a witness stand under oath in a federal courtroom testifying against Donald Trump while he's seated right in front of them at the defendant's table. I mean, this is almost like a movie. It's almost like Hollywood had crafted this. Somebody would say, it's not believable. We're not going to make a movie out of this, but yet it's going to happen right before our eyes.
You know, bringing him up on these charges and forgetting the charges that should be brought up against these criminals that were called presidents for the wars that they started based on outright lies, that's fine. Little Georgie Bush could lie us into war, and as you have him on your podcast, and everybody, please go to the judges' podcast. They're really great. It's Judging Freedom, and you have Phil Giraldi on there a number of times and quite frequently. And Phil was a former top CIA agent that went into Georgie Bush's office when he was president, gave him the documents saying, Mr. President, there are no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. And Georgie told him to leave the office. And Phil Giraldi, being the man that he is, not only left the office, he left the CIA.
Correct. And then Georgie went on air and said the opposite of what the intelligence reports had revealed. And then they had Colin Powell give that horrible, horrific speech, which at the time seemed credible. Which he would eventually renounce, denounce, and regret, but the damage was done. What kind of damage? Trillions in dollars, millions in casualties.
Yeah. Destroying a country that...
And who runs Iraq now? The same crowd that ran it 20 years ago.
Yeah. And the place is destroyed. And Correct. All those people's lives that have been destroyed.
Correct. All the biblical monuments and archaeological treasures and as you say, human lives gone forever.
Yeah. And America,
so nobody gets punished. Bush doesn't get punished. Cheney doesn't get punished. Obama doesn't get punished for bombing for bombing Libya. Trump doesn't get punished for bombing Syria. None of them get punished for using drones to kill generals on the streets. It just goes on and on and on. One interesting thing about these indictments of Trump is this is the first time a president, a former president, has been called to task for criminal behavior while president. Normally, like we're talking about Bush and Obama, they get away with all this.
Yeah. I'm very sad what's happened to this country. But you said, where's the outrage? Where are the people? So everybody listening, please do what you can. Stand up for your life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that's been robbed from us. You know, they say, critical care nurses say that the greatest regret that people have, the dying people, is they didn't become the person they should have become and wanted to become. And so, you know, you want to leave this place on a high note. And to me, the high note is that you do the best you can to live in the spirit of the higher spirit and put your money where your heart and mind is and support those of us that are doing what we can to support you. Judge, thanks for being on. Oh, by the way, on Sunday, I'll be in New York City speaking at the Humanity for Peace rally. Scott Riddle will be there too. So again, all you people that want to do something to bring peace on earth, goodwill to all, please try to join us. Go to Humanity for Peace for more information. Judge, thanks a lot for being here, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Gerald. All the best.